You ever sit alone and feel the weight of every word someone shouldn't have said to you? You ever replay the scenes in your head, moments you were too kind, too loyal, too forgiving, and they mistook that for weakness? Let me tell you something. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You're just finally recognizing the poison you've been swallowing. There comes a time when the soul just can't take another fake smile, another manipulative apology, another phone call that leaves you drained, empty, and questioning your worth. Now, and if you're listening to this right now, I need you to wake up. Here's the truth. The most powerful thing you will ever do for yourself is not to fight back, not to argue, not to prove your point. It is this. You go silent, you go still, and you walk away without a single warning. You don't need to send a long message. You don't owe them a final explanation. You don't need their closure. They had chances. They had opportunities. They played with you. Now it's done. Toxic people, they feed off reaction. They want your attention. They crave your confusion. They manipulate your empathy. And when you give them none of it, you become untouchable. Listen closely. When you stop responding, you start healing. When you stop defending, you start growing. When you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim your peace. And that shakes their world more than any words ever could. Because they expected you to stay confused. They expected you to stay hurt. They expected you to keep trying to fix what they kept breaking. But now you've decided no more. There's something so misunderstood about silence. People often think silence is weakness, that if you're quiet, you're powerless. But let me tell you the truth that most don't realize until life hits hard. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's a power move. Because anyone can scream, anyone can argue, anyone can react. That's easy. But to stand in the middle of chaos, to have every reason to explode, and still choose calm, that's strength most people don't have. Toxic people hate silence because it strips them of control. They don't know what you're thinking. They can't twist your words. They can't gaslight you or guilt trip you if you don't give them material. When you're silent, you hold the mirror up to them. You force them to face their own noise without your participation. And that scares them because your silence says, I've outgrown the game. And when you're no longer playing, they're no longer winning. Most toxic people are emotional parasites. They don't want peace. They want reaction. They feed on your triggers. They search for your breaking point. The moment you raise your voice, you hand them the power. The moment you defend yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you hand over your peace. And they love that. They love to twist the narrative so you look like the problem. But silence, it blocks all entry points. They can't twist what you didn't say. They can't bait you if you don't bite. When you master the art of silence, you don't just protect your peace, you control the battlefield. You don't play defense anymore. You walk away and leave them swinging at shadows. That's why silence works, because it removes you from their toxic energy. It disconnects you from their toxic energy. It disconnects you from the drama. And when there's no fuel left, their fire dies. Silence teaches you more about people than their words ever will. Watch how they act when you don't react. Observe how uncomfortable they get when you don't explain yourself. You'll see their true intentions, their desperation, their need to dominate the conversation. See, toxic people don't actually want to talk, they want to manipulate. And when your silence removes that power, they start scrambling. That's when the mask slips. That's when the real them comes out. They'll call you cold. They'll say you're heartless. They'll claim you don't care, but what they really mean is, I can't control you anymore. That's not your problem. That's their exposure. Your silence reveals everything, not about you, but about them. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to be understood. You just become still. And in that stillness, you grow. You mature. You rise above. There is something sacred about being unreachable. When your silence becomes a boundary, you start to protect your soul in ways words never could. Some people don't deserve access to your voice. Some people should not be allowed into your emotional space just because they know your name. Silence is how you reclaim your voice without using it, because every time you explain yourself to someone who's already decided you're wrong, you exhaust yourself for nothing. Every time you justify your boundaries to someone who's only looking to break them, you drain your energy. But when you stay silent, you keep your power. You're not dismissing the truth, you're preserving your spirit, because some battles are better won by not showing up at all. Your energy is sacred. Don't spend it on people who treat you like a debate. You don't have to prove your goodness. Just let your silence speak louder. People will test you. Life will test you. The louder your silence, the more people will poke to get a response. especially the toxic ones, because they can't stand being ignored. Ignoring them doesn't just inconvenience them, it unravels them. That's when they start sending messages. That's when they start calling from different numbers. That's when they start guilt tripping, fake apologizing, throwing everything at the wall just to get you to break. They'll say, I miss you, but they miss the control. They miss the reaction. They miss the part of you that used to respond to every insult with an explanation, but the new you, the one that's quiet, that version terrifies them. Because now, they don't know what you're thinking. They can't manipulate what they can't access. Your silence becomes your armor. Your silence becomes your weapon. Not everyone deserves a seat at your emotional table. Let that sink in. Just because someone has history with you doesn't mean they deserve to hear your heart. Just because someone helped you once doesn't mean they have a license to hurt you repeatedly. Your silence is the line in the sand. It says, I will no longer negotiate my peace for your presence. And you hold that line with discipline. Because the first time you break silence for a toxic person, they'll know they still have influence, and they'll use it again and again. But when you stay silent consistently and without apology, you show them you've changed. You're not playing anymore. And the second you choose your peace over their chaos, your healing begins. You start attracting better, you start feeling lighter, you start realizing how heavy their energy was all along. Silence isn't passive, it's powerful. It's a decision, a declaration. It says, I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm not afraid to let go. I'd rather have peace in solitude than chaos in company. That's where growth happens. That's where you find your voice, in the quiet. Because silence doesn't mean you don't have anything to say. It means you're finally saving your words for people who deserve to hear them. And let me tell you, that shift changes everything. Your relationships evolve, your boundaries solidify, your mindset transforms. You stop needing to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop needing to be liked by people who never valued you. You realize the only approval you ever needed was your own. And that's when you begin to heal. For real. The more you grow, the more quiet you become. Not because you're weak, but because you've seen what noise attracts. You've watched how drama drains. You've felt the weight of toxic energy and realize it's not worth carrying anymore. So you release it with silence. That's how you break cycles. That's how you reset your life. Not with a loud goodbye, but with a quiet exit. You stop picking up the phone. You stop answering texts. You stop showing up to battles you didn't start. And without saying a word, you start creating space. Space for better people. Space for your own healing. Space for the future you've been blocking by holding on to the wrong ones. That's what silence gives you, space. And in that space, peace starts to bloom. You don't have to tell people you've changed. Let your silence be the announcement. Let the new boundaries speak for themselves. You're not the same person who used to argue to be heard. You're not the same person who cried to be seen. You've grown, you've evolved. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your energy. And now, when someone tries to bring that same old toxicity back into your life, they'll find nothing, no anger, no arguments, just silence. And that's what breaks them. Not your rage, but your calm. Not your words, but your absence. Not your pain, but your progress. Because you're not playing their game anymore. And in a world full of noise, your silence becomes a revolution. So next time someone tries to pull you back into their chaos, don't take the bait. Don't explain, don't react. Just be still, be silent. Let them talk to the wall, let them argue with your absence. Because the moment you realize your silence holds more power than any comeback, you become untouchable. You don't need closure from the same person who broke you. You don't need validation from the same people who doubted you. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You just need to know that your peace is worth more than any toxic connection. And once you protect that peace with silence, the ones who came to destroy you will never be able to touch you again. You don't owe anyone closure. Let that hit your heart. You don't owe it to the person who betrayed you, who manipulated you, who left you confused, questioning yourself. You don't owe explanations to the ones who knew they were hurting you and kept going. Sometimes we get caught up in this idea that we have to end everything with a conversation, with mutual understanding, with a nicely wrapped goodbye. But life doesn't work like that. People break you and then expect you to comfort them while they walk away. They want to hurt you and then hear you say, I understand, but no, this time you don't. You don't have to sit across from someone who wounded your soul just to give them peace of mind. Sometimes the most powerful closure is silence. Sometimes it's you walking away and never looking back. The truth is, closure has become a guilt trip, a trap dressed up as maturity. It makes you feel like you're being unkind if you leave without a final word. But let me ask you, where was their concern for kindness when they left you broken? Where was their need for closure when they ghosted you, used you, lied to you? They had all the power back then. And now when you finally decide to stand up and move forward, suddenly they want answers. Suddenly they need clarity. No! They don't want closure. They want control. They want to keep you emotionally tied to them. And if you give in, if you explain, if you meet up just to talk, they'll use that moment to pull you back in. They'll pretend to want peace, but what they really want is access. Again, there are people who walk out of your life like it's nothing, who discard you like you never mattered. And when they come back asking for closure, it's not because they care about your healing. It's because they notice your silence. They see you doing better. They see you not chasing, not texting, not breaking down anymore. That's what eats at them. And so they'll come around with, hey, can we talk? Or I just want to clear the air. But don't be fooled. They're not looking for truth. They're looking for an entry point. Closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. It's a quiet moment between you and your soul where you say, I deserve better. And that's it. No calls, no messages, no sitting across the table trying to make someone understand who never tried to understand you before. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself distance. You owe yourself healing, but you don't owe anyone who harmed you a front row seat to your recovery. They don't get to witness your strength if they weren't willing to hold your weakness. They don't get a second chance at hurting you under the disguise of ending things properly. You don't need their permission to move on. And you sure don't need their presence to validate your decision. Because if they cared about closure, they would have given you honesty when it mattered. They would have given you effort, loyalty, consistency. What they want now isn't closure. They want to feel better about walking away. They want your strength to relieve their guilt. And you don't owe them that. Let them carry what they created. That's not your burden anymore. Sometimes closure comes in the form of unanswered messages. Sometimes it's in the block button. Sometimes it's just you whispering to yourself, that was enough. Closure is not about what they need, it's about what you need. And often, what you need isn't a conversation, it's space. Space to rebuild. Space to rediscover who you are without the weight of that relationship, that friendship, that fake connection. You're not cold for protecting yourself. You're not wrong for going silent. That's called wisdom. That's called maturity. That's called growing into someone who doesn't chase chaos just to feel whole. Sometimes people don't deserve your goodbye. They only deserve the version of you who tried, and they lost that version. Let them live with that. You've spent too many nights rehearsing the conversation you'll never have. Too many moments wondering what you could have said differently. But healing doesn't come from more words. It comes from acceptance. Accepting that they knew what they were doing. Accepting that the apology may never come. Accepting that closure might never be given. And still being okay with it. That's real strength. Real freedom. You see, when you finally let go of the idea that someone else has to give you peace, you become dangerous in the best way. Because now you create your own healing. You don't wait on an apology. You don't wait on clarity. You become your own answer. And nothing is more powerful than that. So you don't let anyone guilt you into reopening wounds just because they're curious about how you're healing. You're not an exhibit. You're not a diary they get to reread whenever they feel nostalgic. You're a human being who deserves protection, not probing. And if someone had a chance to treat you right and chose not to, they don't get to circle back and ask for peace. That's not their privilege anymore. Closure doesn't have to be mutual. It doesn't have to be spoken. It can be silent, firm, and unshakable. You don't need to hear I'm sorry to move on. You don't need to hear I miss you to prove you were valuable. You already know you were. You don't owe them a text back. You don't owe them 5 minutes of your time. And you definitely don't owe them a meeting to just talk. That's the trap. That's where the cycle starts again. You'll walk in thinking it's closure and walk out more broken than before. Don't go there. Don't pick up the phone. Don't look back. Your peace is more important than their curiosity. The people who really love you, who really care for you, they don't leave you needing closure. They close things with respect, with clarity, with kindness. Everyone else, they made their choice. You make yours. And if your choice is silence, then that is the loudest truth you'll ever speak. One day you'll look back and be thankful you didn't respond. Thankful you didn't send that text. Thankful you didn't agree to meet up. Because closure doesn't heal wounds. It reopens them when it's coming from someone who caused the cut in the first place. The real healing happens when you stop looking to the person who broke you to fix you. When you stop expecting them to give you what they never offered in the first place. That's when you grow. That's when you rise. When you realize that you were always enough. And the fact that someone couldn't see that, that's their loss, their regret, their pain to carry. You just walk forward quietly, strongly, and without apology. So the next time you feel like you owe someone closure, pause. Ask yourself, who truly benefited last time I gave them my heart, my words, my energy? Did it bring me peace or just more confusion? If the answer is pain, then you already have your closure. It's not something they can give, it's something you claim, quietly, privately. And once you claim it, once you accept that you don't owe anyone an ending that makes them feel better, you free yourself. You walk out of the fire stronger, clearer, and untouchable. And nothing, not even the past, can hold you down after that. There comes a point in your life when you realize your peace is not up for negotiation. It's not a gift you hand out to people who constantly disrupt it. It's not a discount you offer just to keep others comfortable. Your peace is your sanctuary, your shelter, and it's priceless. If it cost you your sanity, your sleep, your smile is too expensive, let them call you selfish. Let them say you've changed. Yes, you have changed. You've grown tired of tolerating the chaos that once disguised itself as love, loyalty, or friendship. You've outgrown the conversations that leave you drained. You've walked away from the environments that thrive on drama. Because once you taste peace, real peace, you will fight for it with everything you have. You will no longer apologize for protecting what keeps you whole. There are people who are addicted to chaos. People who will poke at your spirit just to get a reaction. They'll stir confusion, twist your words, push your boundaries, and when you finally snap, they'll call you the problem. But the problem isn't your reaction. The problem is their disrespect. And the cure is distance. Protect your energy the way you protect your child. You don't explain it, you don't justify it, you just do it. People who value you will never demand that you sacrifice your peace to prove your love. Real ones bring calm, not storms. Real ones leave you feeling full, not empty. And the moment you start choosing yourself, you'll watch the wrong ones fall away. And that's not a loss. That's God clearing the path. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people have to lose the privilege of your presence. Because peace doesn't come from outside. Peace is something you build inside. And to protect it, you have to be okay with letting people go without warning, without explanations, without guilt. Stop inviting people back into your life who once made it feel like war. Stop answering the calls of those who never called to check on your heart. Some of the most peaceful moves you'll make will look cold to others, but they'll feel like fire to your soul. That silence, that stillness, that's you returning to yourself. That's you choosing peace over performance. And trust me, that choice will change everything. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You're not weak for walking away. You're wise. Sometimes the loudest statement is not engaging. Sometimes your growth is in the fact that their chaos doesn't move you anymore. That their words bounce off the walls of your peace and fall flat. You no longer rise to every insult, every provocation, every subtle jab, because peace teaches you restraint. It teaches you that not every fire needs your fuel. Some things burn out on their own. And when you finally get to that level of self-control, that level of awareness, you'll look around and realize you've stopped surviving and started living. Your peace is not found in getting people to like you. It's not found in explaining yourself to the wrong crowd. It's not found in proving your worth to people who already made up their minds. That's a trap, a never-ending cycle of approval and exhaustion. But when you learn to sit with yourself quietly, contently, you realize you don't need the noise. You don't need the clapping, the validation, the crowd. Your worth was never in their hands. Your value isn't up for debate. The loudest love comes from within, and when you start nurturing that love, that peace, that stillness, you walk into rooms differently. You no longer beg for a seat at the table, you bring your own, or walk away entirely. Some people won't understand your peace because they've never known it. They'll mistake your silence for arrogance, your solitude for loneliness. But that's only because they've never sat in stillness long enough to hear their own soul speak. Don't let their discomfort disrupt your healing. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not distant, you're deliberate. You're not detached, you're disciplined. And there's a difference. You've been through enough. You've cried behind closed doors. You've broken down in silence. You've rebuilt yourself brick by brick without applause. So now when someone tries to shake your foundation, they find it's made of stone. Because once you know the value of your peace, you stop entertaining anything that threatens it. There is nothing more powerful than a person who has found peace in who they are. No more pretending, no more chasing, no more begging someone to see you, choose you, hear you. That phase is over. Peace turns you into your own home, your own safe place. You no longer look outside for what you've cultivated inside. And that shift, that inner revolution, it radiates. It draws the right people in and pushes the wrong ones out. You stop explaining your standards. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You start honoring your soul like it's sacred, because it is. And if someone can't respect that, then their time in your life has expired. People will test your peace. Life will throw storms your way, but the difference now is you don't react the same. You've found your center. You've learned to pause, to breathe, to ask, is this worth my peace? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. You start preserving your energy like it's gold, because it is. Your peace is what allows you to think clearly, love deeply, sleep soundly, and live fully. Don't let anyone take that away. Not for drama, not for guilt, not for company. If keeping them means losing yourself, it's too high a price. And you've paid that price before. Not anymore. You've been the one who gave too much, the one who tolerated too long, the one who stayed silent just to keep the peace, even when it tore you apart inside. But now, you've learned. Real peace isn't silence at your expense. It's truth spoken gently. It's walking away softly. It's creating space for joy, for healing, for wholeness. You're not who you used to be. You've grown. You've earned this new chapter. And in this chapter, your peace comes first. Let the world adjust. You're not here to carry everyone's weight. You're here to walk in purpose, in power, in peace. And that peace, it's not just important, it's everything. So when someone asks why you changed, why you're distant, why you're no longer available for the same games, the same cycles, the same chaos, just smile. Smile because you no longer have to explain. Smile because peace doesn't shout, it just is. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself, for creating boundaries, for living in light and letting go of what dimmed you. Your peace is priceless. Protect it like your future depends on it. Because it does. There was a time when you kept quiet just to keep the peace. A time when you smiled through pain, nodded through disrespect, and convinced yourself that maybe, just maybe, they didn't mean it that way. You gave chance after chance. You excused their behavior, told yourself you were just too sensitive. But now you're waking up. You're starting to see that it wasn't kindness keeping you quiet. It was fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of losing people. Fear of being called too much. But let me tell you something. You were never too much. You were always enough. The problem was you were surrounded by people who were not capable of treating you the way you deserved. And now it's time to outgrow that version of yourself. The one who stayed silent. The one who tolerated less. The one who swallowed their worth just to keep others comfortable. Growth doesn't always come wrapped in peace. Sometimes it comes wrapped in anger, in heartbreak, in long nights spent wondering why they couldn't see your value. And then one day it clicks. One day you wake up and realize you're done begging people to treat you right. You're done reminding them of your heart, your effort, your loyalty. You stop proving yourself to those who never had the eyes to see you. And in that moment, something inside of you shifts. You reclaim your power. You no longer tolerate half love, fake loyalty, or words that don't match actions. You start setting boundaries so firm they feel like walls to the wrong people. And that's okay. Because those boundaries are the doors that only the right ones will knock on. You start realizing that respect is not optional, it's the bare minimum. You stop making excuses for people who consistently make you feel small. You stop laughing off disrespect, brushing past manipulation, and ignoring red flags. You're not cold. You're conscious now. You've evolved. You've learned that loving someone should never mean abandoning yourself. And anyone who asks you to choose between their comfort and your self-respect doesn't belong in your life. The old you might have entertained them, might have reasoned with them, might have kept them around. But the new you, the healed you walk away and you don't look back. Because you've outgrown the games. You've outgrown the noise. You've outgrown everything that made you forget who you are. Let them say you've changed. You have. Growth demands change. And sometimes that change looks like silence, like distance, like peace, like not responding to the drama you once engaged in, like protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You stop explaining your worth. You stop shrinking to fit into places you've clearly outgrown. You no longer chase closure from people who were never capable of giving it, because now you've learned how to give it to yourself. You've learned how to stand alone and be okay. You've learned that walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It makes you free. And that version of you, the one who allowed disrespect in the name of loyalty, is not coming back. When you start loving yourself deeply, you become less available to the things that hurt you. You no longer participate in conversations that leave you feeling confused or broken. You no longer sit at tables where love is conditional and respect is selective. You see things clearly now. You see how you used to give and give while others took and took. And you forgive yourself, not for tolerating it, but for not knowing better at the time. Because that version of you didn't know how powerful you truly were, but now you do. And with that awareness comes a new standard, a new voice, a new version of you that demands nothing less than what you give to others. You've realized that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Some people are only meant to be in the audience. Some people were only chapters, not the whole book. And you're not bitter. You're better. You're not holding grudges. You're holding boundaries. There's a difference. You no longer seek revenge. You seek peace. You seek peace. You don't clap back, you walk away, because you finally understand that your energy is currency and you're done spending it on people who can't afford your presence. You know now that the old you would have argued, would have explained, would have pleaded, but the new you simply leaves. Quietly, powerfully, without a word. That silence is your new strength. The people who truly care about you will never ask you to tolerate disrespect in the name of love. They won't guilt you into silence. They won't manipulate you into staying. They'll show up. They'll speak life into you. They'll respect your boundaries, not resent them. And that's what you've started waiting for, the real ones. You become patient, not desperate. You become selective, not bitter. Because you've learned that peace is better than attention. Respect is better than empty words. Solitude is better than fake companionship. And your self-love, that's not negotiable anymore. That's your foundation. That's your armor. That's your revolution. You outgrew their version of love. The one that required you to lose yourself just to keep them. The one that felt like confusion instead of clarity. The one that hurt more than it healed. You outgrew the games, the mixed signals, the broken promises, the hot and cold affection. You stopped dancing for their approval. You stopped waiting for their apology. You stopped needing them to understand your worth, because now you understand it, you live it, you embody it. You look in the mirror and no longer see someone desperate to be chosen. You see someone who chooses themselves. Boldly, proudly, unapologetically. And maybe that means fewer people around you now. Maybe that means you had to walk through a season of loneliness to rediscover your light. But let me remind you, that loneliness birthed your strength. That silence restored your voice. That isolation introduced you to the most powerful version of yourself. You stopped asking, what did I do wrong? And started saying, this is what I deserve. And from that moment on, your life began to shift. You attracted peace. You protected joy. You created space for what aligns with your soul. And you never looked back. Because growth isn't always loud, but it is always life-changing. So if you're wondering whether it's okay to walk away from what disrespects you, let me answer it for you. It's more than okay. It's necessary. It's sacred. It's survival. You weren't born to carry the weight of people who refuse to grow. You were born to rise, to evolve, to become someone your younger self would be proud of. And every time you say no to disrespect, every time you choose your peace, your standards, your worth, you take one more step into the life you were always meant to live. You're not who you used to be. You've outgrown that version. And there's no going back. There comes a point in your life when peace becomes more valuable than opinions, more sacred than attention, more powerful than proving your point. You've played the game before. You've explained yourself to people who never really cared to understand. You've argued with those who only listened to reply, not to grow. You've stood in the fire of other people's chaos and called it loyalty, but not anymore, because now you see it. The drama, the noise, the emotional bait they throw at you, it's not worth your energy. Every time you respond, you pour gasoline on their fire. Every time you defend yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you shrink your peace just to feed their dysfunction. And it's time to stop feeding the drama. There are people who don't want resolution, they want reactions. They want you angry, they want you unsettled. They want you to spin your wheels trying to decode their manipulation. Because as long as you're caught in their web, they feel powerful, they feel relevant. But the moment you go silent, the moment you stop reacting, stop responding, stop explaining, watch how powerless they become. Watch how uncomfortable your calm makes them. That's not your problem. That's their mirror. When you refuse to feed their chaos, you reveal the truth they've been trying to hide. You expose their need for control, and you reclaim yours. It's tempting to clap back, to prove your innocence, to show the receipts, to tell your side. But real strength is restraint. Power isn't found in the noise, it's found in the pause, in the refusal to let someone else's dysfunction disturb your spirit. They may lie about you, twist your words, try to provoke you, but let them talk. Let them fume. Let them scream into their own echo chamber, because the truth doesn't need an audience to remain true. And you? You don't need to defend yourself in a courtroom where the judge, the jury, and the executioner are all built from petty insecurities. You've evolved beyond that level. You've outgrown the need to respond to every poke. They want you to look crazy. They want you to break character. They want to say, see, I told you they were unstable, but don't give them that satisfaction. Let your silence echo louder than their accusations. Let your self-control be the proof of your growth. You don't win battles by fighting every war. Some fights are traps. Some debates are designed to drain you. That's why discernment matters more than volume. You're not here to convince people. You're not here to perform respectability. You're here to protect your energy, your purpose, your peace. And peace, real peace, isn't passive. It's a decision. It's a discipline. It's you saying, I'm not lowering my vibration just to meet your chaos. The old you might have fired back, might have typed out a paragraph, might have hit send, might have lost sleep over it. But the new you read it and let it sit. You hear the gossip and don't flinch. You feel the heat and keep walking. Because you know now, not everything deserves a reaction. Not every jab deserves a jab back. Some things are beneath you, and that's not arrogance. That's awareness. That's growth. That's wisdom earned through pain. And that version of you, the one who used to get pulled into drama like it was your duty, is no longer available. It takes maturity to protect your peace in a world that thrives off conflict. To choose silence when noise feels justified. To walk away not because you're weak, but because you're too powerful to participate. And it might be lonely at first. It might feel unnatural. You might even miss the chaos a little, because drama used to feel like attention. But peace is a different kind of comfort. It's not loud. It doesn't demand validation. It just sits with you. It heals you. It holds you together when the world tries to rip you apart. And the more you protect it, the more you see how little you needed that drama to begin with. You don't need to be in every conversation. You don't need to address every rumor. You don't need to explain yourself to people who already decided what they want to believe. That's not your job. Your job is to be so grounded in your truth that their opinions don't rattle you. Your job is to stay focused on your purpose while they chase your reaction. And when they realize you won't engage, they'll either level up or fade out. Either way, you win. Because when you stop feeding the drama, you make room for the peace you were always meant to walk in. Let them underestimate you. Let them twist the story. Let them tell their version. Your power isn't in their mouth. It's in your control. You don't have to light fires to be seen. You don't have to clap back to prove a point. Your growth will speak louder than your words ever could. And your calm will scare them. Because they thought they could break you. They thought they could shake you. But here you are, steady, unbothered, evolved. And that unsettles the ones still living in drama. Your refusal to react is your liberation. You'll find peace when you stop responding to what doesn't deserve access to your energy. You'll find joy when you stop letting negativity rent space in your mind. And you'll find freedom, not in control, but in surrender. In releasing the need to fix, to argue, to be right. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, quietly, with dignity, with your head high and your spirit whole. Let them think what they want. Let them stir the pot. You're not even at the table anymore. You're in a new room, a higher frequency, a better chapter. And that, right there, that's where the real power lives. So the next time drama knocks on your door, don't answer. Don't peek. Don't engage. Let it knock, let it scream, let it pass. Because your silence, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's healing. That's what it looks like when you finally stop feeding the drama and start feeding your soul. There comes a moment in life when you realize that love isn't just about how you treat others. It's about how you treat yourself. And setting boundaries is one of the purest, strongest forms of self-love. It's not about being cold. It's not about building walls to keep people out. It's about building strength within so that you stop letting people take pieces of you without permission. You've been stretched, drained, pulled in directions that never served your growth. And you called it love, loyalty, or duty. But you were bleeding while they were feeding. You were giving and they were taking. And now it's time to stop betraying yourself just to make others comfortable. Because your peace, your time, your mental space, that's sacred ground. And not everyone deserves access to it. You've been told that setting boundaries makes you selfish, that saying no makes you rude. But here's the truth. They just got used to your lack of boundaries. They got comfortable with the version of you who never said no, who always showed up even when your soul was depleted. And now that you're pulling back, they're calling it changed. But growth always looks like betrayal to those who benefited from your silence. You're not hard to love, you're just no longer easy to use. That's the difference. And it's a difference that shifts your whole life when you start honoring it. Because the moment you choose yourself, they either respect you or reveal they never did. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're filters. They don't block love, they protect it. They protect your heart from being exhausted, your mind from being manipulated, your time from being wasted. And they protect your spirit from being broken by people who only show up to take. You're allowed to say, I'm not available for that energy. You're allowed to step away from chaos, from entitlement, from disrespect. You don't need permission to protect your peace. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your soul. That is not love. That is not loyalty. That is self-abandonment wearing a fake smile. And it ends now, today, with this decision to love yourself out loud. When you begin setting boundaries, expect resistance. Expect people to test you, to guilt trip you, to call you distant or arrogant or different. But keep going. Because the ones who truly love you will adapt. The ones who truly care will understand. And the ones who don't, let them leave. You are not meant to shrink for the comfort of others. You are not required to be a doormat to be a good person. Love yourself enough to choose peace over pleasing. Love yourself enough to say no, not today. Love yourself enough to walk away from anything that feels like disrespect wrapped in sweet words. Because people will test how little they can give you and still keep you. You were taught to be kind, but not how to be strong. You were told to turn the other cheek, but never shown how to walk away when someone slaps both. But now you're learning. You're unlearning old patterns. You're shedding the people-pleasing mask and stepping into your truth. And the truth is this: boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. They tell the world, this is how I love, and this is how I expect to be loved. They teach others how to treat you, not through words, but through action, through consequence, through consistent self-respect. And if someone can't rise to meet your standard, they were never meant to sit at your table. You've given too much to people who gave you crumbs. You've entertained too many energies that didn't honor your value. And now it's time to reclaim yourself. To love yourself in ways that no one else ever did. Not through empty affirmations, but through boundaries that protect your spirit. Every time you say no to something toxic, you say yes to your healing. Every time you choose peace over chaos, you honor your growth. Every time you walk away from what disrespects you, you affirm that you are finally listening to yourself, to your soul, to that inner voice that's been whispering all along, you deserve more. The world will try to convince you that your value comes from how much you give. But giving without limits is not love, it's self-neglect. And eventually it breaks you. That's why you're tired. That's why you feel invisible. Because you've spent so long showing up for people who disappear when you need them. But now you've changed. Now you're aware, and awareness is power. Awareness tells you that not everyone deserves access, that not every relationship is meant to last, that not every call should be answered. Because your peace is too expensive to bargain with, and your soul is too sacred to sell for attention or temporary connection. Let them say what they want. Let them call you distant, difficult, or detached. That's fine. Because those words won't break you like self-abandonment did. You've played that game, you've lived that life, and it nearly cost you everything. Your peace, your joy, your identity. So now you're choosing you. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you finally believe you're worthy of the same love and protection you've been giving away. You're not building walls. You're building doors. Doors that lock. Doors that open when it's safe. Doors that say only healthy love enters here. And you will lose people. Let's not sugarcoat that. Some folks will walk away when you stop sacrificing yourself. Some will ghost you when you stop playing the role they assigned to you. But let them walk, let them go. Your boundary didn't break the relationship. Their inability to respect it did. And that's not on you. That's their reflection. You just held up the mirror. And now you're free. Free to create the life you deserve. a life with deeper love, safer connections, and a heart that no longer bleeds for people who never deserved your blood in the first place. Boundaries are love, self-love, and it's time the world sees you walking in it, unapologetically. There's a moment in every person's life when they look around and feel like they're trapped. Trapped in a job that drains them, trapped in a relationship that no longer sees them, trapped in a version of themselves that doesn't match who they are inside. And in that moment, it's easy to freeze. Easy to convince yourself this is just the way things are. But let me tell you something, freedom doesn't come wrapped in comfort. Freedom doesn't arrive quietly, it's born in fire. And it always begins the same way, with one bold step, one decision to stop living on repeat and start rewriting your story. That's where everything changes. That's where freedom begins. Not in waiting, but in moving. Even when your legs are shaking, even when your voice cracks, even when you're scared out of your mind, you don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the first step, that bold, trembling step away from what's breaking you, away from the lies you tell yourself to stay small. That step is a declaration. I will no longer be a prisoner of fear. And fear, it's always loud before you move. It'll scream every excuse in your ear, tell you that you're not ready, that you're too broken, too late. But fear is a liar. It only has power when you sit still. The second you move, even a little, you start cutting its voice in half. Every time you stand up for yourself, speak truth to your soul, walk away from what isn't love, you take your power back. That's what freedom looks like. It's not always grand. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just you in the dark saying, I deserve more than this. You've been conditioned to settle, to shrink, to apologize for wanting something different, for dreaming bigger, for expecting more from life and people and yourself. And every time you gave in to that voice, you built a cage made of what ifs and what will they think. But you were never meant to stay caged. There's a lion inside of you. There's a storm that's been silenced. But the pressure, the weight you've been carrying, that's your spirit fighting to break free. That's your purpose pounding against the walls of your comfort zone. And one bold step, that's all it takes to crack it open. To breathe again, to feel again, to stop just existing and finally start living. Don't wait for someone to give you permission to be free. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand you the life you dream about. That's your job, your responsibility, your right. And it doesn't matter how long you've been stuck. It doesn't matter how many times you've fallen. What matters is what you do now, right now, in this moment. Because boldness doesn't come from confidence. It creates confidence. You don't get courage and then act. You act and courage shows up. One step is all it takes. Not 10. Not a plan that makes everyone else comfortable. Just one, and then another, and then another, until you look back and realize you're no longer trapped. You're walking in freedom. You owe it to yourself to find out who you could become if you stop letting fear make your decisions. You owe it to the younger you who once believed in possibilities. And you owe it to the future you who is depending on your strength right now. That version of you, the one who's healed, whole, lit up from within, that version is waiting on the other side of one choice. The choice to move, to speak, to leave, to try. Whatever it is that's been pulling at your soul, begging for release, that's your path. And you won't have it all figured out, but that's okay. You're not supposed to. The path doesn't reveal itself to the comfortable. It reveals itself to the brave. You are not made to stay in rooms that drain you. You are not created to serve people who take you for granted. You are not born to keep reliving the same heartbreak, the same cycle, the same self-doubt. Freedom is your birthright, but like every gift, it must be claimed. And when you start moving in the direction of truth, life opens up in ways you never imagined. You'll lose people, yes. You'll outgrow environments. You'll scare those who prefer the version of you that kept quiet. But don't let that stop you. Because nothing feels better than becoming the person you were always meant to be. There will be pain. Let's not pretend like change is painless. Growth is uncomfortable. Loss is real. But the pain of staying stuck, of betraying yourself day after day, that's a slow death. And you deserve more than that. You deserve mornings that don't feel heavy. You deserve nights that don't echo with regret. And you can have that. But only if you take the first bold step. Maybe it's making the call. Maybe it's cutting ties. Maybe it's finally admitting the truth to yourself. Whatever it is, you already know. Deep down, you know. And now it's time to act on what you know. Not tomorrow, now. Because nothing changes if nothing changes. You can pray all you want, hope all you want, visualize all you want, but if you don't move your feet, your prayers become prisons. Faith without action is fantasy. You want to be free? Walk like you're already free. Speak like you've already been delivered. Think like the chains are already broken. That mindset, that movement, that's when the shift happens. That's when opportunities appear. That's when strength rises inside of you like a fire that won't be put out. The bold step isn't the end. It's the ignition. It's what sets everything else in motion. And when you do take that bold step, even if it's small, even if your hands are shaking, you're going to feel something powerful, a glimpse of yourself, free from fear, a taste of the life you've been craving. That glimpse is everything. It'll keep you moving when it's hard. It'll remind you that you're not powerless, that you never were. You were just waiting, and the wait is over. It's your time now. Time to stop asking for permission. Time to stop explaining your worth. Time to stop playing it safe just to survive. You weren't born to survive. You were born to rise. And it all begins with one bold, beautiful, terrifying, liberating step. Sometimes life whispers and sometimes it shouts, but the truth remains the same. You were not created to live small. You weren't placed here to be silent in the face of disrespect, to carry pain that's not yours, or to trade your peace for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. Every word, every story we've walked through together, the silence you learned to wield as power, the people you no longer owe closure to, the boundaries you built from self-love, the growth you embraced when you refused to tolerate disrespect, it's all been building toward one sacred truth. Your freedom begins the moment you decide you're worth fighting for. You are not here to be buried beneath other people's opinions. You're not responsible for mending what others broke or staying in chapters that no longer serve your soul. Drama fades when you stop feeding it. Freedom rises when you stop waiting for permission. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that tolerated chaos and called it love. And you're allowed to protect your peace like it's the last flame in a dark world. Because it is. This journey, this transformation, it's not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world taught you to doubt yourself. Before you were told that your feelings were too much, that your standards were too high, that your voice didn't matter. You were always enough. You were always worthy. You just forgot. And now you remember. Now you stand taller. Now you speak softer, but with more strength. You don't chase closure, you embody it. You don't chase people, you protect your presence. You don't seek freedom, you walk in it. All it takes is one step, one moment of courage, one deep breath before you say, I'm done settling. The world may not clap when you do it. The people around you may not understand, but your soul will. It'll exhale, it'll rise. And that's what matters. You were never meant to live in survival mode. You were meant to thrive, to move in purpose, to own your space with dignity, with strength, and with unshakable peace. And no matter how far you've wandered, no matter how heavy it's been, you can start again, right now, right here, bold, free, unapologetically alive. Thank you for giving your heart the time and space to listen to truth. Thank you for choosing yourself, even if it hurts. Thank you for walking toward freedom. May your steps be bold, your peace be unshaken, and your light never dim again. Stay strong, stay grounded, and above all, stay free. God bless you.